Welcome to the Firebelly Social Show. We're focused on talking to food and beverage brands that are on a mission to make the world better.
Hey, everyone. Duncan here with another episode of the Firebelly Social Show, where we chat with founders and leaders of mission-driven food and beverage brands. And I'm excited to be here with Arnell. Arnell, what is happening?
Hey, what's up, Duncan? And thanks everyone for tuning in to this latest episode of the Firebelly Social Show. This show is brought to you today by Firebelly Marketing. At Firebelly, we help mission-based food and beverage brands bring people closer through social media marketing. So if you're ready to use social media to create more community and excitement around your food and beverage brand, go to firebellymarketing.com to learn more.
Hey, everyone. We are so excited. This is a special episode. We are going to have a couple of guests. And our first guest today is Mariah Hilton Wood, co-founder from Tilden, who we've already featured recently. And we love them so much. We've got them back here. Hi, Mariah. Welcome.
Hey, Duncan. Hi, Arnell.
We are so happy.
Hey.
We are so happy to have you here today. And I think we're going to kick off with Arnell.
Yeah. So we definitely enjoyed having you guys here last time. We talked with your other co-founder, Vanessa, and I was interested on how you met Vanessa and how did you get inspired to join her mission with Zero Proof?
Yeah. So Vanessa and I were together at Harvard Business School. We hadn't met, but she stopped drinking during the COVID pandemic. I happen to be a lifelong non-drinker from Las Vegas, which is kind of an odd duck. And so when Vanessa came forward and said, hey, I just feel like non-drinkers should have a better option. We were kind of standing at these fancy social events and everyone around us had a beautiful cocktail in their hands. And we were swirling I won't name brands, but we were swirling sparkling waters. And we just felt like there's a time and a place for a sparkling water, and this is not it. So she called that out to me, and I realized that I had just habituated this kind of lack that I felt at social events. And I was like, why shouldn't there be a beverage that has the same level of craft and intentionality behind it that we see in the alcohol space, in the liquor category? And that's really what brought us together, this shared pain point. We didn't know at that point that it was an awesome opportunity from a business perspective. We just wanted the product. So that's really what kicked it off for us.
It's amazing. It's really interesting to see what Zero Proof beverages are doing in the market. What are your thoughts about the rise of Zero Proof in 2024? And just any thoughts around that?
Yeah, I think there are two very related underlying trends that are pushing this non-alc movement. First is the health and wellness movement. And that's been around for a while, but it's finally finding its way into conversations around what we drink. I mean, we've watched it move into food categories for a long time. Things like around gluten-free or just being, better for you categories, those types of things. In just the past few years, people have started to actually talk about what you're drinking when you're not trying to drink a health beverage. And alcohol specifically, there have been a ton of articles actually that have come out recently that have debunked some of the conversation around how alcohol in moderation is not bad for you, things like that. Now, I want to preface this. There are all kinds of things that we do that are not good for us. So if you're choosing to, eat a candy bar or drink some alcohol, like that's a choice you're making. Just being aware of when you're doing that and being intentional about when and how you're, choosing to eat something unhealthy, whether it's a piece of cake or a cocktail. I think that's where we're at today. And so that's really what we're about at Tilden, is having an option where if you're choosing not to consume alcohol because it's not good for your sleep health, your gut health, your mental wellness, all of these things, you should have an option that you can turn to. So that's one trend, that health and wellness, and we're seeing that really drive interest in the category. But there's another trend as well, and that's this intentional living trend. So it's about being present, it's about being mindful. All of those trends are really also driving this desire for people to be themselves in social settings, not require the alcohol crutch, really remember the night the next morning. This kind of moments to remember concept is coming through, driven by intentionality.
I love that. That reminds me of Sierra Thomas with Pink Cloud. That was her thing too, is moments to remember and being more intentional, remembering what happened last night and also being fully present during the whole experience. So yeah. I love that you bring that up.
I tell people that I can dance on a table sober, and I will tell you it's true. And I think being a lifelong non-drinker, I've had to learn how to be myself at a party. And I'm really okay being a silly person or being I love to dance. I can totally do that without the alcohol. And I think people are starting to realize that if they're not enjoying a get together, they shouldn't just mask that with alcohol. They should go somewhere else. So that's kind of what we're about too.
Amen. Go somewhere else.
Right. 100%. So what trends and innovations are you seeing coming up in the zero proof industry?
Yeah, I am seeing a few different shifts. First off, a lot of the non-alc options that were on the market previously were these direct analogs. They were an imitation of an existing spirit or cocktail. Like that's where the term mocktail comes from. It's supposed to imitate an existing cocktail. So there's a real reason that we're not offended by the word mocktail by any means, but there's a reason that we say we're a non-alcoholic cocktail. It's because we're not imitating something. I am seeing more and more of that pop up in the industry. And both from a product perspective and from a restaurant menu perspective. A lot of the time, what you found on a menu in the past was like a virgin XYZ. And now we're seeing that people are starting to expect the same level of intentionality in developing a non-alcoholic drink as we've seen in the alcohol industry. So instead of getting this sort of afterthought comparison, you're getting these more unique developed flavors. And that's something that we're really excited about. It's kind of where the direction that we come from at Tilden as well. And along those same lines, we're seeing menus at restaurants pushing toward having more branding on their menus. So in the past, it's been like, oh yeah, I can throw something together for you. What kind of flavor profile do you like? And that can be fun, but it also can be off-putting to consumers when they feel othered because there's not actually a section on the menu that, caters to them. Having to engage with the server or the bartender and be like, hey, I'm not drinking tonight. What can I get? That's not always a conversation you want to have. And so we're seeing more menus having this non-alc section on the menu, but we're also seeing more branded product on the menu. The same way that you might care for a certain spirit over another one, a specific type of tequila, there's kind of this reason that you would brand the tequila that you put in your cocktail. We're seeing more of that happen in the non-alc space. That's just a couple of trends that we're looking at for 2024.
I mean, it's interesting. We have personally experienced this. Like when you drink just a straight zero proof tequila, not that great. Zero proof wine. And it's not because there's no buzz or there's no alcohol in it. It's just that they don't taste that great. The balance is off. The mouthfeel is kind of weird. But I wanted to ask, what about this sort of like unintended use case where people love it so much that they want to add alcohol to it?
Yeah, I get asked that all the time. Literally this past weekend, I was at a holiday market and, when you're out in the world talking to real people, you get all types. You get people who walk by and they're like, cocktails without the alcohol, what's the point? And then you get these other people who are like, thank you, finally. It's like, okay, you have both sides of the coin. So of course we get people that come up and say, hey, can I mix it? And my response, honestly, is, I can't stop you. I'm not going to try to stop you. If you like it with some gin in there, like go for it. And we're not, anti-alcohol as a company. We're about providing options. So some of our customers really love to mix our drinks, and that's fine. The same way that it's fine that a lot of our consumers are not fully sober. They like to mix Tilden in as, a sober drink in the middle of a night where they're drinking traditional alcoholic cocktails as well. Or, they're taking one night off and the next night they're going to go have alcohol when they go out. That's fine.
That I think it's really interesting. Just thinking about my experience with Zero Proof, I remember ordering something that I thought was supposed to be really nice. It ended up just being sparkling flavored water, the flavored sparkling water. But I think it's really interesting. A lot of these non-alcoholic brand is really, like you mentioned, it's not about imitating another cocktail. And in my experience, I was like, this kind of feels like alchemy. It feels like a science. It feels like something that was put together super intentionally. And that's something that I really appreciate. I wanted to ask you, how has the zero proof industry, in your opinion, influenced the functional beverage space or even the alcohol industry? Because I know it's changed a lot with this rise of non-alcohol. Both of those industries have. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think people often ask, like, how do you market something as what it's not? And to be like, well, we're marketing this because it doesn't have alcohol. A lot of people are like, well, then what does it do? And I think those people that are asking that question, they're not the target customers. They don't get it. Like, when you walk into a restaurant as a non-drinker and there's nothing on the menu that doesn't have alcohol, that's what you kind of expect. And so when you see something that's alcohol-free or non-alcoholic, the reaction isn't just curiosity, like, oh, I wonder if I like that flavor. I wonder if it tastes good. It's like deep-seated emotional response of like relief and excitement of being seen and like included. And so people don't feel like, oh, you're marketing a product that isn't something else. It's finally meeting their need. It's and that's unique. So I think in the past it's been very much like both the functional beverage category and the alcoholic category has been kind of about what the drink does to you. And now people are starting to realize that there's a whole segment of consumers out there that don't want you to do anything to them other than, give them a wonderful flavor experience. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mariah. That's very insightful, and we're excited to see what this next year brings. Hey, everyone. I'm so excited to welcome Betsy Frost from Hoplark to the show. Hey, Betsy, how are you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Betsy, we're so excited for you to be here and give us your thoughts on what is going to happen with Zero Proof Beverages in the next 12 months. So Zero Proof is growing at a considerable rate in general. What do you think's going on? What's behind all the increases?
Well, I just think it's a overall trend in the way people are living their lives. I don't know if I go through a week where I don't run into a friend who's saying like, I'm just drinking a lot less, or I cut out drinking altogether. There's a recognition of the impact of alcohol on your overall healthfulness. And whether you're cutting it out altogether, the trend in general is just to drink less. Yet people still want to have something to relax with and to connect over. And so the idea of having something that's not water or not just a sparkling water, but something that has a little bit more specialness to it appeals. And so I think, the trend in the US really kind of started to hit in 2018. And it's just really kind of hitting its traction point where everyone's like, yeah, I'm going to do that now. I am excited to try something new and to swap it out versus feeling like it's, taking something away. Zero Proof is now kind of at a tipping point where it feels like you're adding something to your life.
Yeah, there's so many great changes, right? We have Zero Proof stores. We're seeing zero proof bars. We're seeing, restaurants having like more than just one, BS cocktail. They have RTD component to their menu. So there's like, not only is it cool, but it's also like an opportunity for these businesses to make additional revenue.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if instead of like, if someone's not drinking, that you can sell them a cocktail at full price that happens to be zero proof, that's amazing. And it tends to be incremental. Like what we find on our 0.0 business, which is our NA beer equivalent, except that we just brew the hops, so it's 0 calories, 0 sugar, 0 alcohol, is that often people are picking up a case of beer, a case of Athletic, and a case of Hoplark, and they are actually consuming more liquid, not more alcohol, but more liquid, because they're interchanging all of these occasions together.
So is it not out of the norm for people to be sober 2 or 3 or 4 nights a week as opposed to not at all? And then also, are you seeing people that are buying zero proof beverages and mixing them with alcohol?
Yeah, I mean, the data would show that most zero proof drinkers actually drink alcohol, but they are drinking less alcohol than they used to. And so they're using zero proof on either occasions, nights, times where, they feel like a drink, but they don't want the impact of a drink on the next day or that evening, or they're using them interchangeably within occasions. So I'll have a cocktail and then I'll move to zero proof, or vice versa. So I get a little bit of the best of both worlds. The like mixing with, it definitely happens. I worked for a company, Dry Soda, before Hoplark, which is also alcohol-free alternative. And we found that, having AF drinks that can meet multiple occasions within the household work just as well. And people will use them as mixers. I think it speaks overall to like the growth of just mixology within the home in general. And some of these AF options provide a really amazing shortcut to great mixology solutions. But in general, people seem to be using them mostly as an AF option.
That's so cool and wonderful that they can all enjoy something and be included and have options. Let me ask you this: where does the line, or is there a line? We are seeing the sort of like rise of functional beverages, and then we have the zero proof space where, hey, you're not necessarily wanting to do anything to someone, whether it's a buzz or whether it's more zinc or whatever. What's that kind of distinction there?
I mean, I think the rise of functional is its own space, and beverage is a very convenient way to deliver functional benefits. It always has been. It's been like beverage and bar are the easiest ways to get functional benefits in. And so, some of those functional occasions are interchangeable with zero proof, but they exist for a different reason, of whether it's, anything from a health functional benefit of what someone's looking for. Some people talk about using kombucha as a AF alternative. The rise of kind of THC beverages in certain areas. I'm in Minnesota, where it is legal and it's like blowing up everywhere through all the craft breweries. But that's different. That's like exploring functionality for the sake of the functionality itself. What the rise of zero proof really is about having this emotional occasion being delivered for you without having anything else altered. And the idea that you can deliver on an emotional and social need through flavor and real ingredients versus needing the function to them. So I see them as, yeah, they have, overlap within their categories, but they really are like the motivation for doing them from a consumer perspective is actually different.
And what kind of trends are you seeing coming up over the next 12 months? Or I guess innovations and trends?
Yeah, I think we'll continue to see the increase of options within the space. You could call it technology, or people cracking the code of getting to good flavor continues to get better and better. And that's been one of the enablers of the entire space, is that you finally, someone like Athletic came in with a craft NA beer that tasted great, that didn't feel like a compromise in what you were drinking. And whether it's in the cocktail space or the NA wine space or in the beer space like we're in, or the hop space that we're in, flavor just keeps getting better. And I think people are figuring out how to do it truly with real ingredients as well. So you're getting, the holistic look of something that tastes great, but is natural and fits within my general health lifestyle that I'm looking for. So the no compromise side of this is getting better and better dialed in.
That's really great. Thank you so much for your insights into this explosive space. I did see a report recently that said that China is the next big opportunity as well. So we'll see what happens with that. Thank you so much, Betsy Frost with Hoplark has been chatting with us on the Firebelly Social Show. Thank you again, Betsy.
Thank you. Appreciate being here.
So I'm really excited to round out what's happening in the next 12 months in the Zero Proof space with none other than the founder of Zero Proof Nation, Laura Silverman. Welcome, Laura. We've had you on the show before, and we're so excited. You literally are a walking encyclopedia, a repository of all things AF. So be so welcome. Thank you for coming.
Oh my gosh, you know how to flatter a girl and introduce a guest. Thank you so much, Duncan. I'm so excited to be back on the show.
Laura, other than changing our lives here at the Firebelly Social Show with all your knowledge bombs, I know that you are living the life and you are seeing what's happening on the first hand. You have probably tasted more products than anyone I know. What are you seeing coming up in the next 12 months in Zero Proof?
Goodness, it's hard to predict the next 12 months because every day changes so much. This is, sometimes it feels like this industry is getting larger and larger and larger, and it is, but it's still very nascent. It's still very new. And there are so many products that are coming to the fore daily. When you know a lot or most of the players in the space somewhat internationally, that shows that it's still a compact industry, but gosh, is it growing. So obviously, I believe that we're going to see even more growth. Maybe, and I've sort of said this on shows in the past where, like, during the pandemic, we had this arc that went directly up because we were always growing, we being the adult non-alcoholic beverage industry. Up until there was an adult NA industry, it was non-alcoholic beverages, considered like sodas, seltzers, milks, those kinds of juices. So you would see a lot of like Minute Maid and Sunny D and Coca-Cola in non-alcoholic beverage reports. But since then, since we've had this industry shift, it's the analogs, it's the non-alcoholic beers, wines, spirits, RTDs. You probably recently saw, and this will still be somewhat recent news when all of you are listening right now, but that White Claw just announced its Zero Proof seltzer. Now, it's so funny. It's like the soft, hard seltzer. Seltzer in and of itself is non-alcoholic. It is it's club soda. People behind brands have created a hard seltzer subcategory, by adding that alcohol content to, I don't actually know how it all works, but suffice it to say that seltzer in and of itself is not alcoholic, but it's sort of been co-opted into this hard subcategory. And for a brand like White Claw to actually go back to the basics and do something that they consider is like their real thing, but not the real thing. It's zero proof. I think we're going to see a lot more big alcohol brands diversifying their portfolios, adding either full categories to their offerings, or at least we'll see, with larger beer breweries, we're going to see more non-alcoholic beers. With larger wineries, we're going to see more non-alcoholic wines. So I really think we're going to see more of big alcohol taking up space, rightly so, and also perhaps maybe encroaching a little bit on the smaller guys, but that's just how I guess business works. So we're going to see more big alcohol playing in the non-alcoholic realm. I think we're also going to see a lot more grocery being top dogs in terms of selling. And I think this is good and has drawbacks. The pros are that it gets these products in front of the masses. It introduces this category to more people than if they were just in individual bottle shops or on e-commerce platforms could handle or could even reach. But with being in grocery, you're dealing with a couple of things. You're dealing perhaps with just at the scale that products are at grocery. And I don't really know how the business of it all works, so we're not going to get into that. But just are they pricing out their competitors who are at non-alcoholic, independent non-alcoholic bottle shops? And I'm curious. I'm excited to hear what your other guests are saying about that. Is it a dangerous thing to have these products at a large grocery store when let me back up. You can either keep this, edit this out, or whatever. Dangerous is not the word I want, but it definitely, I guess, like anything in competition, you're going to have big chain restaurants and you're going to have mom and pop shops, and they coexist together, but they coexist on a larger sort of grander scheme. But if you have, in a more specific drill down sense, if you've got a chain restaurant that just parks itself right across the street from your local taqueria or your local, mom and pop Italian restaurant, that might not work for the Italian restaurant, and they might have to close down. So we're going to see on the larger scale, yes, those two grocery and local retailers and independent retailers are going to coexist together. But I don't think it's not going to be at the cost of lots of small businesses having to shut down because they just can't keep up. And so that's going to be an interesting thing to see played out. And my heart goes out to all of the indie guys and gals who are doing it. It can't be easy.
Laura, what do you think about convenience stores? It's supposed to be a really big growth category for the next, 24 months. Convenience stores carrying, whether it's the White Claw product or whether it's something else. I think we could maybe hope to see convenience stores playing in the space more, and maybe some acquisitions.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that has been sort of going on quietly, not quietly, for several brands. And if not acquisitions, then certainly some minority stakeholdership or whatever the actual word is. But I think with convenience stores, it would be interesting. First of all, if we go toward a place where we have more non-alcoholic products than alcoholic products at convenience stores, because fact of the matter is that people often grab and go before they're driving. So we hope that no one, is drinking and driving, and they're just carrying those products to a party or to their home. But if we have more non-alcoholic options that are not just, chocolate milks, which I also enjoy, and Gatorades, which I also enjoy, but those analog products, perhaps that could eventually lead to a larger societal shift. But sort of in the interim future, in the near future, I think in order for the convenience store aspect to really work, there has to be like proper labeling, because people will get confused. If they see White Claw, they're going to think it has alcohol. If they see a bottle of beer, they're going to think beer. So there's got to be proper labeling. Not everyone knows, even in grocery, like if they see an Athletic 6-pack next to anything else, like they're going to just think it's a 6-pack of beer. Sometimes there is that little like label that says non-alcoholic, but I've seen different stores just kind of mix and match it. And that can be quite dangerous, obviously, for people who don't know what they're buying or think they're buying one thing and it turns out to be another. So there's got to be a lot of like discernment. And I think that might lead to another prediction for this coming year, is that there'll be more regulatory crackdowns, perhaps. There'll be a push for perhaps a more international regulation on like alcohol content by volume. And yeah, gosh, I feel like I'm a talking head on a show, on TV show.
You are. And so here's the other thing is that, China looks to be a huge option as well. China and India and all these countries that maybe culturally China doesn't fit into that group, but culturally that don't drink. So, that's interesting. They don't drink alcohol, but, and maybe beverages that play the role of social glue in their cultures are more like, street tea or coffee or something like that. And so we can see that. But I think we can all agree, and you're seeing this certainly every day, that the category is showing no signs of slowing down.
Right. Yeah. And just to go back to what you were saying, that's actually a fantastic point. For obvious reasons, the Middle East was always kind of a prime grounds for growing the category. But I don't think a lot of people thought that way, or maybe there was this necessity for, and there is obviously, for halal certified products. So up until somewhat recently, the Middle East wasn't, for one reason or another, and maybe it wasn't just working in that space, but now there's so much going on in the Middle East, whether it's from high-end hospitality groups, hotels and restaurants, to some retailers, pop-up bars, and all sorts of things. The Middle East is becoming, I think rightly so, but like for obvious reasons, it's becoming a very natural fit for the adult non-alcoholic category. And you'll see that with Drink Dry, which is an online retailer based in Dubai and in Kuwait. And then there's the Virgin Mary, which is, they rebranded to TVM, but they were originally a group in Ireland, and they have really, really grown in the Middle East. And I think there are a lot of other brands that are kind of staking their claim, and especially in the UAE, Saudi, and a few other countries. So we're going to see more growth, I think, in the Middle East. And I just want to go to all the places. I want to have a TV show, go to all the places. So I am looking for sponsorships. Wink, 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 nudge, nudge. Tell all your friends.
I think it's interesting. So what we're really seeing, there's a number of things going on, portfolio extensions, innovation. There's some lines being crossed when it comes to, are some of these drinks doing something to your body? Are some of these drinks just purely for drinking and in being in the social situation? Are some of them functional? There's just so much going on. I think we can all agree that it's looking great for the next 12 months.
Yes, absolutely. I could say more, but I'll leave it at that. There's definitely more to look forward to, definitely more to talk about. And this is whether someone comes to the table for a business opportunity or they come because they need options for their lifestyle. There's a lot of growth potential in non-alc, and we're going to see more and more players across the board come to the fore. So it's an exciting space to watch.
Awesome. Thanks again, Laura Silverman from Zero Proof Nation. Thank you so much for being a part of the predictions for the next 12 months.
At your service. Thank you.
And so as we continue this look at the next 12 months of what's coming in AF or Zero Proof, I'm thrilled to have Andy Simpson and Kristen Patrick here. And the story is amazing because we're kind of near each other. We don't live and work very far from each other, but we met in the craziest way. Sierra Thomas from Pink Cloud introduced us to Vanessa and Mariah from Tilden, who introduced us to Laura Silverman from Zero Proof, who told us about Kristen and Andy, and then I met Andy, and we're so excited to have you guys here. They are sisters and the founders of Lawrence AF. And Lawrence AF does not stand for what you might think it stands for. It stands for alcohol free, which makes it an even more brilliant name. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the show.
Oh, great to be here. Thank you so much.
So give us a quick recap. How did you get started, and what's that journey been like?
Kristen's great at
Okay, well, our journey started around toward the end of 2021. We knew we wanted a project, something about celebrating this alcohol-free lifestyle. Andy and I are very open that it took us a long time to get to alcohol-free. It was a journey for both of us. And we're believers in the lifestyle, and we knew that we wanted to do something. And kicking around ideas, we stumbled across an article in January 2022 about this concept of booze-free bottle shops. In Vogue magazine, specifically referenced Spirited Away in New York City and Sachet in Charleston. And Andy, she's always been a visionary. I mean, that is truly her gift. Said, we're doing it. Like right there on the spot, on the phone with the commercial real estate broker the next day, it's happening. And me, a little more like, whoa, back up. Can't we put a pin in this for a little bit? And she's, no, we've got to do it right now. So January 2022 was really when things started getting in motion, where again, sort of looking for commercial real estate, which was a far bigger challenge than we predicted or would have anticipated. But again, part of our journey, part of our story, finding a place on the north side of Indianapolis. And where we ultimately landed was a pretty raw space. So that took some time, to get, paint on the walls, install electricity. But we started, our first delivery would have been July 1st, 2022. And then our retail space opened in August a month later. And then we opened our second location in April of 2023.
Wow, what a rush and what a journey. And visionary for sure, because you are literally transforming the community with what you're doing, and people have the opportunity to feel included. They have the opportunity to find a drink, and they have the opportunity to be a part of things. So thank you so much for doing this. This is really amazing. I think you have, from the other guests on this episode, who are either an analyst or founders of these brands, you are literally on the front line with consumers in the AF space. Not only that, but you're in a state that is maybe not as progressive when it comes to sobriety or even being curious about sobriety, right? What's that like? And what are some of the crazy stories that you've heard being on the front lines?
Well, I'll let Kristen fill you in with some crazy stories because she's much more client facing than I am. But I think what's interesting is that people question sometimes us being successful in the Midwest. How are you doing? Are you doing okay? And you see these stores really thriving on the East Coast and the West Coast. But if you look at Central Indiana specifically, and you're looking at Hamilton County, you can see that our demographic is highly educated. You can see our demographic is curious, and they're really more than anything, really wellness minded. So while we haven't really tapped the full potential of the people that we want to reach, I think it's a matter of time before we do. But I think something that has surprised me the most about our demographic and our clientele is that it's not so much about sobriety or even sober curiosity. It's much more about wellness right now, which is something that we'll talk about soon.
Got it. Kristen, what's your thoughts?
Like I said, like Andy said, that's something we didn't anticipate. The people coming in and saying, I want, I need 0 carbs, 0 calories, no sulfites, no preservatives, and it's like, vegan, gluten-free. I'm like, whoa, okay, well, let me take a look here. But it's been incredibly rewarding building the relationships with customers, or like this sense of community. So I'm really proud of the fact that our inventory or our shelves are curated based on customer feedback, really listening close to what people liked and they didn't like. I considered it an incredible honor for someone to come in and say, I didn't care for this. What else do you have for me? The fact that they would give us another try, that they trust us, right? They're willing to give us that honest feedback, but they want to keep going and they keep want to trying new things. Part of the story of opening, this decision to open the store is that we love to shop. We love to shop local and we love to collect beautiful things. And so, as we were, putting the store together, that drove a lot of that work was just collecting, beautiful bottles, letting them shine on the shelves. But we know that sometimes the packaging isn't enough. And we're so fortunate that we have customers that give us candid feedback, and they do it they do it in person. They send us emails, they reply to our newsletter, they send us direct messages, and we take note and we listen.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And all the numbers indicate that Zero Proof AF is going to be continuing to grow at a significant rate. What are your thoughts around that, or why do you think that is?
Oh, I think right now, for 2023, we're looking at something like 2 billion globally. Something, is that right, Duncan? And definitely about to grow. I think one of the main factors in that is that we're seeing college-age kids in their 20s and 30s being less and less interested in tuning out and being more present. And there's so many drinks that exist right now that are fun. And there's also different ways to feel different ways. To be perfectly transparent, but I think it's the younger kids.
It's the kids. God damn it, the kids, they're taking us forward. Thank God for them, right? I heard yesterday, I was mentioning to you earlier that we interviewed Betsy Frost from Hoplark yesterday, and she made the comment that it's basically this generation, the 12-year-olds and the 10-year-olds and the 8-year-olds, and this is the generation that's going to have to solve all the major problems that we've created. It's basically up to them, right? So
take care of us. Yes.
So it really is a number of things coming together. It's wellness, as you said, Kristen. It's the desire to be present and tuned in. It's the desire to maybe not drink. It's the desire to not have your beverage do anything to you in some cases. That is driving the growth. Are you seeing any particular categories or any innovations or trends that you've noticed?
Oh, yes. I'll jump in. I think Kristen has something to say too, but just looking at some basic reports recently, our top 2 categories that we sell are wine and drinks that have adaptogen. So people are looking for a wine replacement, and sometimes it does take a couple tries to find what you like, which would be par for the course if you were drinking wine with ethanol. And then drinks with adaptogens that can make you feel certain ways. I know we're going to talk about trends, but one trend that I'm seeing, I saw this huge increase of drinks with adaptogens. And I think now, maybe you sort of mentioned it earlier, drinks without adaptogens, I think, are the next thing. And we'll probably touch on that. But wine is a huge seller at our shop. Our demographic is women, maybe 30 plus, looking for a ritual, something in a beautiful glass, something that tastes delightful, something from good quality that's made in a beautiful artisan way. And we can still have all of that. And it's a really cool thing that when I even stopped drinking a couple of years ago, I didn't know existed. And I'm so excited to try new ones. And there's so many things that exist now that are reminiscent of the flavor or are completely different. And there's so many options.
Kristen?
I know we always have to. It's a funny question. Who's our customer? Because we say everyone, right? We so many reasons. We see so many people throughout the course of the week. But I guess if we had to identify a pattern, it would again be professionals in their late 30s, 40s, 50s who maybe have a weeknight drink habit, whatever they may look like, whatever their drink of choice with alcohol. And they recognize that, hey, maybe this isn't serving me, that I'm not getting done when I want to get done, or I'm not sleeping as well as maybe I could. And so they're looking to swap out the weeknight drink, where they're not necessarily interested in giving up weekend alcohol, but so I don't want to say habit, but a routine where, you know, whether it's making dinner or maybe, you know, unpacking the day with their partner, but a pattern we see over and over is someone looking for something for an evening drink, a weeknight evening drink.
Especially if you're going to wake up at 6 a.m., right? Or 5:45 like me. And I'll give a shout out to my colleague, Reagan Heron. I mean, she works out at 6 o'clock in the morning. So it's like, you can't really pound, you know, 3 cocktails, you know, at 8 o'clock at night and then go have a killer workout at 6 o'clock in the morning, you know. So maybe you're either drinking earlier or you're swapping out the drink. So it totally makes sense, Kristen, and thanks for that perspective. What do you think about the fact that there's a lot of people, I mean, does it feel like plant-based food did, like, you know, maybe 5 or 6 or 10 years ago? It's like, hey, you know, we weren't necessarily trying to get people to quit meat. We're trying to get them to eat, you know, a couple of vegetarian meals or plant-based meals in the week. And so, you know, we're seeing that movement away from eating, you know, certainly away from eating red meat all the time, but maybe eating meat all the time it kind of feels the same. You've got the early adopters and the leaders who are then going to go tell everyone, like, this is what we're doing.
Well, yeah. I mean, I need to take the analogy further. So like Andy said, we sell a lot of wine, and wine requires some coaching, right? Managing of expectations, kind of walking them through what to expect when selecting an alcohol-free wine. So, you know, one of the pieces of that conversation is a change of perspective. Like you have to step back and not compare it to wine with alcohol, but think of it as its own independent category and appreciate that, yes, it's thinner and lighter, but it's also a fraction of the calories, no hangover, and it's lovely tasting. But, you know, trying to get people to not be stuck in this idea of that it needs to taste exactly like wine with alcohol requires some coaching. And so I guess the analogy being, you know, like the plant-based products, because Andy and I are both mostly vegetarian, is the idea that, like, maybe not all those products need to taste exact. You know, maybe, like, is that the goal? Do they really need to taste exactly like, you know, steak or chicken? But just appreciating that it tastes great. And the benefits of you know, choosing that plant-based product or the alcohol-free wine.
Yeah, I would also add that a couple years ago, when we were plant-based and going to a restaurant and looking for a meat-free option was so frustrating, and going to the grocery store and trying to find just anything was so frustrating, and it was so many pain points. And I think we are very in a similar place right now in NA, where people come in and say, do you know what I would spend for a glass of NA wine with a really nice steak? Do you know this place? I even talked to their bartender, and I wish that they had an NA option. You know, right now, for our community, it is very much a pain point. We're trying to find these things, and we want to see them out, and we know what they taste like, but it's like, come on, catch up already. That's what I feel like. And I feel like a lot of our customers feel the same.
Well, and you know, there's, I've heard, I don't know if you've ever heard the saying, it's a saying I love. There's the people who make shit happen. There's the people that see things happen. And there's the people that said, what the fuck just happened? Right. And so you all are making it happen. So thank you so much for doing that. And any last thoughts about the next 12 months and anything we might expect in AF?
Yes. First, I want to say we also just opened a distribution side of our business to bridge that gap, because we were hearing it so often in the stores from customers that feel the exact same way that we do. But my number one feeling for the future of NA is good design. Instagram accounts like Snacks Shots is where I get my information. There's so many new products. There's so many new ready to drinks, definitely canned beverages. I think we're making an evolution from drinks with adaptogens to drinks that are delicious without adaptogens, and taking our own adaptogens. But for me, the biggest thing that I think that's going to be important is beautiful, cool design.
I love it. I love it. I mean, I got to say, there's a lot of people that if the design is there, they're going to go for it. So.
That's me. Yeah.
Kristen?
I echo what Andy said. She nailed it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for changing the world and making our world better. We're going to have you on for a full episode. Thank you for being here today. And I've been here chatting with Kristen and Andy, the founders of Lauren's AF, and we're so excited to hear the perspective from the street.
Thanks so much for having us. This was fun.
Thanks for listening to the Firebelly Social Show. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.